They told you that simple farmers, fueled only by determination and armed with primitive copper chisels, constructed the single greatest engineering feat on the face of the earth, that is the safe. Lie that history textbooks have used to lull us to sleep for generations, but here is the twist. When modern engineers can these granite blocks weighing tens of tons with lasers, they find optical precision, a level of technical perfection that even the most advanced CNC machines of the 21st century struggle to replicate. Today, my promise to you is that we will peel back that crude cover to reveal a shocking truth. The Great Pyramid is not a tomb, but the legacy of a supreme engineering capability derived from the stars. You are standing beneath the blistering sun of the Giza Plateau. In front of you is not just a pile of stacked rocks, it is an artificial mountain weighing 6 million tons. Place your hand on the surface of the remaining casing stones, cold, smooth, flawless. You were taught that ancient Egyptian laborers cut these blocks with copper, Sazan sand. But let physics speak. On the Mohs scale of mineral hardness, copper rates a mere 3, while the red Aswan granite, the primary material forming the inner chambers, rates a 7. In terms of basic physics, you cannot cut a harder material with a softer one, just as you cannot cut a diamond with a wooden knife. When you zoom in on the cutting marks, what you see is not the sign of slow, manual abrasion. You see tubular grooves, consistent and deep, suggesting a feed rate, the speed at which the tool eats into the material, that is incredibly fast. Mechanical experts, looking at these drill cores, have shuddered. These marks bear the signature of high-frequency sonic drilling or focused thermal tech, similar to the industrial plasma or laser cutting technology we have only recently reinvented. We aren't talking about chipping away stone. We are talking about vaporizing hard rock, as if slicing through melting butter. Have you ever wondered if impossible is just a word we use for a technology we were never meant to understand? The precision here is absolute. The blocks are locked together so tightly that you cannot insert a razor blade or even a human hair between the joints. Even after 4,500 years of erosion and earthquakes, the engineering tolerance is practically zero. If this were the work of Bronze Age humans, the cumulative error over millions of blocks would have resulted in a twisted, distorted tower. But no, it stands there, a sacred geometry that defies time. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you find the journey we are about to take to be a worthy one. And while you are there, let me know in the comments, where in the world are you observing these mysteries from? Your curiosity connects us in this global investigation. Now, let's travel back in time and deconstruct the story of a lost world. As we step inside, the darkness will swallow the sunlight, and the pyramid's true technology will begin to reveal itself. You are now crossing the threshold, leaving the blinding desert sun behind and stepping into the cool, suffocating darkness of the interior. As your eyes adjust, the camera tracks slow along the floor of the Grand Gallery, rising slowly to reveal the soaring, corbelled walls that narrow as they ascend. Listen closely to the acoustics here. There is no echo of mourning, no artistic depictions of the afterlife, no hieroglyphs praising a pharaoh. The silence here is heavy, industrial. It feels less like a cathedral for the dead and more like the internal housing of a massive, dormant engine. You have been told that this architectural marvel was built solely to house a single mummified corpse, yet not a single mummy was ever found inside the Great Pyramid. What you find instead, when you look at the structure through the lens of a physicist rather than an archaeologist, is a machine designed for power generation. Touch the walls of the king's chamber. This is red granite, transported over 500 miles from Aswan. Why go to such trouble for a burial chamber? The answer lies in the mineralogy. This granite is roughly 55% silicon quartz crystal. Any electrical engineer will tell you that quartz is piezoelectric when you apply mechanical stress or pressure to quartz. It generates an electrical charge. Now, consider the sheer mass of the pyramid. Millions of tons of limestone pressing down on these granite chambers. You are not standing in a room, you are standing inside a massive geological pressure transducer. The architecture itself supports this theory of industrial intent. The Grand Gallery isn't a ceremonial hallway. Its steep angle and slotted walls suggest it was a housing for a counterweight system or resonant cavity. The so-called their shafts are not for ventilation, they are too narrow and precise, pointing like waveguides to specific celestial targets. When modern researchers run sound frequencies through these chambers, they discover that the pyramid resonates at an incredibly specific frequency, an F-sharp core, which many argue is harmonic with the electromagnetic resonance of the Earth itself. Imagine the pyramid not as a stone monument, but as a lens, a device designed to capture the seismic vibrations of the Earth, magnify them through the piezoelectric granite, and focus that energy into a concentrated beam. The sarcophagus in the king's chamber, a granite box cut with laser-like precision, shows signs of intense heat damage, not from a fire, but from an internal energy alteration. It wasn't a coffin for a king, it was likely the central capacitor, the spark plug of this colossal power plant. The builders didn't need torches to see and hear there. Zero soot on the ceilings, unlike every other tomb in Egypt. They didn't need fire because the very walls they were building were likely humming with a clean wireless energy that we are only just beginning to dream of rediscovering. The camera pulls back now, rocketing upwards, leaving the stone plateau behind and punching through the atmosphere until you are floating in the silent vacuum of low Earth orbit. From this vantage point, looking down at the night sky of our planet, the purpose of the Giza Plateau transforms. You are not looking at a graveyard. You are looking at a navigational computer etched into the crust of the Earth. Standard archaeology tells us the Egyptians aligned the pyramids to the stars for religious rituals, a primitive attempt to send the pharaoh's soul to the heavens, but the mathematics suggest a far more functional purpose. The Great Pyramid is aligned to true north, not magnetic north, which shifts with the molten iron in the Earth's core, but the actual geographic spin axis of the planet. It achieves this with an accuracy of within 3/60ths of a degree. To put that in perspective, the Paris Observatory, built with 17th century cutting-edge science, is less accurate than this ancient pile of rocks. To achieve this without satellites or laser theodolites requires not just luck, but a profound understanding of planetary physics and orbital mechanics. Why would a Bronze Age civilization obsess over such terrifying precision, unless the structure wasn't meant to be looked at from the ground, but to be scanned from above? As the camera pans upward to the constellation Orion, a digital overlay locks onto the three stars of Orion's belt: Alnidak, Alnilam, and Mintaka. Now, look back at the ground. The layout of the three Giza pyramids is not random. It is a perfect terrestrial mirror of these stars. The two large pyramids align perfectly with the two bright stars, and the smaller pyramid, Menkaure, is offset slightly to the left, exactly matching the dimmer offset star Mintaka. This is the Hermetic principle of as above, so below applied on a megastructure scale. But here is the intelligent signature that changes everything. This alignment doesn't match the sky of 2500 BC, the time the Egyptologists say the pyramids were built. Due to the precession of the equinoxes, the slow 26,000-year wobble of the Earth's axis, the stars drift across the sky over millennia. If we rewind the astronomical clock, the pyramids only lock perfectly into place with Orion's belt at one specific moment in history, roughly 10,500 BC. This creates a staggering implication. Either the Egyptians were building these structures thousands of years before history says civilization began, or they were following a blueprint laid out by someone who viewed time and space from a much higher perspective. This is not a tomb. It is a geodetic marker, a cosmic address. If you were a traveler crossing the vast, dark ocean of interstellar space, looking for a refueling station or a specific outpost, you would need a beacon that survives cataclysms, a signpost visible from orbit that says, you have arrived at the correct coordinates. The Giza Plateau is that landing light, still burning bright in the language of mathematics long after the builders have departed. The camera cuts to a digital reconstruction of the pyramid's core, highlighting the dragon's belly of the structure, the massive granite beams above the king's chamber. We are looking at stone monoliths weighing up to 70 tons each, equivalent to the weight of a fully loaded Boeing 737 hoisted 150 feet into the air. Here lies the physics paradox that shatters the conventional narrative. Mainstream Egyptologists will tell you these were dragged up massive earthen ramps on wooden rollers, but let's do the math. To haul a 70-ton load to that elevation with a manageable incline, you would need a ramp extending over a mile into the desert, containing more material volume than the pyramid itself.
We are completely wedged.
A spiral ramp hugging the sides, impossible. The turning corners would require cranes that didn't exist to rotate the blocks. The sheer friction coefficient of limestone on wood, under that crushing weight, would turn rollers into splinters and ropes into dust. The mechanical energy required simply doesn't add up. So, how do you move a mountain when brute force fails? You don't fight gravity, you turn it off. We know today that sound is not just something you hear, it is a physical force. In modern labs, we use acoustic levitation, standing sound waves to trap, hand float water droplets and small polystyrene balls. It is a proven fact of physics. Sound pressure can counteract gravity. Now, apply the sci-fi layer. Imagine this technology scaled up by a type to civilization. Ancient texts from around the world, from the Coptic papyri of Egypt to the monastic traditions of Tibet, speak of flying stones raised by the sound of trumpets, drums, and chanting choirs. We dismiss these as myths, but what if they were descriptions of a technical process we forgot? By directing specific, high-amplitude resonant frequencies at the quartz-rich granite, the builders could have created a localized acoustic field that disrupted the atomic lattice of the stone, effectively negating its mass. Picture the scene. No sweating slaves, no cracking whips, just a low, vibrating hum that vibrates in your chest, generated by tuning forks or rod-like devices. As the frequency locks in the sweet spot of resonance, the 70-ton block shudders, lifts, and floats weightlessly, guided into place with the gentle push of a hand. This explains the lack of carbon debris from millions of campfires needed to feed a slave army. There was no army, there was only a small
Confirmed. Energy flow stable.
team of technicians, masters of harmonics, utilizing a technology where sound was the crane, and frequency was the fuel. We are looking at a civilization that understood that at a quantum level, matter is just vibration. If you control the vibration, you control the matter. The camera view shifts now, transitioning from the physical stone to a stark, high-contrast digital interface. We are looking at a wireframe topographic map of the Earth. A glowing red reticle descends from space, zooming in with satellite speed until it locks dead center on the apex of the Great Pyramid. The screen flashes with a set of coordinates. This is where the argument shifts from engineering to something far more unsettling, the realm of mathematical impossibility. Pull out your own device, open Google Earth, type in the latitude for the center of the Great Pyramid. You will see the number 29.979 to 458 degrees north. Now, open a physics textbook to the page defining the fundamental constants of the universe. Look at the speed of light in a vacuum, denoted by the letter C. The number is exactly 299,792,458 meters per second. Look at those numbers again. They are identical. Skeptics will scream coincidence. They will tell you that the ancient Egyptians used cubits, not meters, and that the meter wasn't defined by the French Academy of Sciences until 1791. They call it a random chance alignment, but calculate the odds. There are millions of possible latitudes on the globe. To build a monument of this magnitude on the precise decimal point down to the 7th decimal place that matches the universal speed limit of reality, that is not a coincidence, that is a statement. But here is the twist that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. The meter itself was originally defined as 1/10,000,000th of the distance from the North Pole to the equator. This means the meter is an Earth-based measurement derived from the planet's own geometry. If the builders of the pyramid knew the exact size of the Earth, which we have already established they did, and they understood the speed of light, then they would understand the mathematical relationship between the planet and the light that illuminates it. You are looking at a light speed etched into the bedrock. By placing the pyramid here, the architects were leaving a message that transcends language. They weren't writing in hieroglyphs that could be lost or mistranslated. They were writing in the language of the universe, constants. They were telling us that they understood the fundamental fabric of space-time. The speed of light is not just a velocity, it is the calibration setting of our reality. To encode this number into the geographic location of the structure suggests that this wasn't just a building, it was a terrestrial anchor for a civilization that had mastered the physics of light travel. They stamped the speed of light on the ground, perhaps to show that they had already surpassed it. The camera glides low over the undulating dunes of the Giza Plateau, scanning the landscape with the scrutiny of a forensic crime scene investigator. We are looking for something that should be here, something massive, yet is conspicuously missing. We are looking for the trash. Consider the logistics of a construction project of this magnitude. When you quarry, cut, and dress 6 million tons of stone using primitive pounding stones and copper chisels, you generate waste, a lot of it. Modern quarry estimates suggest a waste ratio of at least 1:1 for high-precision work. For every ton of perfect pyramid block, there should be a ton of limestone chips, broken fragments, and dust left behind. We should be seeing mountains of debris rivaling the pyramids themselves, but as the camera pans 360 degrees across the horizon, the desert is eerily clean. Where did the millions of tons of stone chips go? Did the exhausted slaves, after dragging 70-ton monoliths, also sweep the desert floor with brooms? The stealth tech explanation invites us to consider a possibility that defies conventional physics. What if the waste wasn't moved? What if it was erased? Zoom in on the unfinished obelisk in Aswan. Look at the trenches surrounding this 1,000-ton giant. The walls of these trenches are not flat, they are scooped. They bear a scalloped pattern, as if a giant ice cream scoop had simply removed the hard granite. There are no chisel marks. There are no signs of percussive force. The rock looks as though it was softened, or worse, simply ceased to exist at the point of contact. This brings us to the most radical concept yet: directed energy or controlled antimatter interaction. In a matter-antimatter annihilation event, mass is converted 100% into energy. If the builders possessed a tool, a localized beam emitter that could destabilize the atomic bonds of the rock, turning solid matter into plasma or gas instantly, there would be no chips, no dust, only a flash of light and a release of heat. This explains the vitrification found on some ancient rock surfaces that have been melted into glass. It explains the lack of debris. The excess stone wasn't chipped away, it was vaporized. They were literally editing the landscape, deleting matter as easily as you backspace a typo on a computer screen. This is not construction. This is matter manipulation at a molecular level. This implies a power source that makes nuclear fission look like a steam engine. A civilization capable of such clean manufacturing suggests they had solved the energy crisis that currently threatens our own planet. They didn't just stack stones, they transmuted the very elements of the earth, leaving behind a finished product that looks less like a building and more like a printed circuit board, pristine and free of the messy byproducts of human labor. The camera pulls back to the ultimate vantage point, a geostationary orbit high above the planet. From here, the Great Pyramid is just a speck, but as the digital overlay activates, golden lines begin to shoot out from the apex of Giza, racing across the oceans and continents. They connect to the ziggurat temples of Ur, the stone heads of Easter Island, the geometric perfection of Teotihuacan in Mexico, and the sprawling complex of Angkor Wat in Cambodia. You are witnessing the motherboard of the planet for decades.
Nodes in a single system.
We have studied these ancient sites in isolation, treating them as separate, primitive religious monuments, but when you map them mathematically, a terrifying order emerges. Many of these major ancient structures fall on the same global coordinate rings or specific geometric alignments known as ley lines. The Great Pyramid sits at the exact geographical center of the Earth's landmass. In the logic of circuit design, you place your most critical component, the CPU, in the center of the board to minimize signal latency and maximize distribution efficiency. This leads us to the ultimate purpose, the World Wireless Grid. Nikola Tesla, the father of modern electricity, spent his life trying to prove that the Earth itself is a massive conductor. He built Wardenclyffe Tower to pump electrical energy into the ground, aiming to create a resonant field that would allow anyone, anywhere on Earth, to pull free power from the air. He failed because he ran out of money. The builders of the pyramids did not fail. Consider the geology again. The aquifer beneath the Giza Plateau flows through limestone cavities, creating a natural electrochemical battery. The granite pyramid above acts as the transceiver, We are looking at a planetary-scale version of Tesla's dream, built thousands of years before he was born. This wasn't just a tomb or a beacon, it was a power plant that used the planet itself as the transmission wire. The implications are humbling. We pride ourselves on our internet, our satellites, our fragile power grids that snap in a storm, yet, lying beneath our feet is the fossilized skeleton, but superior technology, a global wireless energy network that was cleaner, stronger, and infinitely more elegant than anything we possess. The machine isn't broken, it is simply turned off, and perhaps it is waiting for a civilization smart enough to find the on switch without destroying itself. As the camera descends one last time, settling on the silent, wind-swept Sphinx guarding the plateau, the heavy orchestral score fades into a singular, sustained cello note. We have deconstructed the stone, the math, and the stars. What remains is a silence that screams with unanswered questions. We look at these monuments and see impossible engineering because we are looking at them through the lens of our own limitations. We assume we are the apex of history, the smartest creatures to ever walk this mud. But the Great Pyramid stands as a monolithic tombstone to our arrogance. It suggests that we are not the first masters of this world. We are walking through the ruins of giants, playing with the instruction manual of a technology we are only just beginning to read. Whether they were travelers from the stars or a lost chapter of our own human story, they left us a message in stone. The limits of reality are much further out than we dare to believe. The only question is, will we look up long enough to see it?